On October 12, 2022, Christian Lee, Will Mcgarvey, Greg Thompson, and Ian Scott set out to Vietnam for a motorcycle trip throughout northern Vietnam. The boys were quite excited as they had been planning it for a month prior and had plans to make a film of their adventures, which is part of their careers and their way of making a living and supporting themselves. Thirsty to get started, after only a night's rest, they set off to northern Vietnam, where they would each ride motorcycles on a road that borders China known as the Ha Giang Loop. Over the span of 3 days, they encountered some of the most beautiful landscapes they had ever seen, some of the steepest roads, rice terraces, and mountains you can ever imagine. They would personally say that they were in the middle of capturing some of the best footage of their lives. It really couldn't get much better than riding motorbikes in another country with your best friends, capturing footage of a lifetime that would blow the minds of others back home and could help and support their careers. The third day of their riding was by far their best. They had endless memories to talk about, many laughs, smiles, and full bellies. As they were laying in their local homestay that they had booked for the night, they talked about their day, they shared footage, and laughed about the funny things four best friends would do on a trip like they were doing. As they had one last day of riding on the Ha Giang Loop, they decided it would be best to get some sleep and call it an early night. This is when the very unfortunate trauma began. Will, Greg, and Ian said goodnight as Christian continued to edit, sort through footage. Out of nowhere, an extremely loud sound swept through as if a massive rainstorm had hit and was bouncing off the tin roof. It was out of the ordinary and didn't seem right. Christian immediately sat up and looked out the glass doors that led out to the lanai. He did not see any rain nor any wind. This was when Christian knew something was very wrong. Christian told Ian to check it out as he was the closest one to the door. Ian jumped up, opened the door, stuck out his head, and screamed, "Fire!" All four friends immediately jumped out of bed and ran towards the door. As they hit the door, they realized they had nothing with them. When they turned around, the wall that Christian previously had been laying against in only 5 seconds was engulfed in flames, including their ceiling. They all took a risky chance and grabbed one item. With the fire growing rapidly, they rushed out the door to make their way down the stairs that had not yet caught fire, thank goodness. Running down the hallway, Christian turned and looked down a steep hallway that led to the back of the homestay. It was completely engulfed in flames and raging. Many people were running for their lives. It was very traumatic. The stairs were a hazard of their own as they were at a vertical incline. An elderly man went flying by Christian in midair and landed on his head. He was instantly unconscious. Ian took it into his own hands with another guest at the homestay to pick the elderly man up and drag him out the building. Within less than a minute, their entire homestay was burning along with all of their belongings. There was nothing they could do. The entire community rushed with hoses and other tools in order to put the fire out. As they watched the building burn, they all kicked into survival mode. Christian began to think about his backup cars, passport, everything. Slowly but surely, he began to realize that those were in the fire. And from here on out, all he had was what he was wearing for the remainder of his time in this foreign country. They struggled for 2 weeks after the fire to pull out money, clothes, deal with the trauma of the fire and everything. They were very fortunate they made it out. If this had happened any later, that they might not be around to tell their story. The problem that Christian and others have had is the trauma. Coming that close with death and losing all your belongings is very tough, especially all being so young. It took Christian 2 weeks to process what had happened and to realize that all that matters is that they are safe. Christian and the others lost so much of their camera gear and other belongings. This ended up being the only way they were able to pull out money was with their friend's passport that they had. It was a very tough trip for them because of the fire, but they believe they walked away from it wiser and stronger. Thank you for all those who have offered to help these four amazing friends any way you can. They all greatly appreciate the thoughts and prayers they have received from friends and family. Even though they lost all the footage, they hope to still bring to everyone an animation of their story from this past month. Please stay tuned. I am speaking from the heart when I say these 4 friends are amazing people and absolutely do not deserve this horrific trauma that they went through. Please help support any way you can, even if it's just $1. They need your help in recovering from this trauma, purchasing new camera gear for their careers, and getting back on their feet with clothes, food, emotional, and physical support. We are grateful for your kindness and generosity, and let's support these 4 awesome guys in a big, big way. We are striving to raise $20,000 to recover everything they lost, get them back on their feet, continue their careers, and they are so grateful for anything. One quote from Rhonda Byrne from The Secret is, "By gratitude, those will be given more, and he or she will have abundance." And this is the same for giving as well. Those that give will be given more, and we will forever be grateful. Thank you for anything you can give, and we're here to say thank you from all 4 of these friends from the bottom of our hearts.